Outreach, Connect. Now that you've got clarity on your what, why, how, and you know who your peeps are, it's time to connect. So first, let's talk about the most powerful tool. The best way to land a meeting, make a connection, or build a relationship is by referral. When someone we like and trust recommends someone they like and trust, we listen. So who in your network that you trust, and most importantly, who trusts you, can give you a referral or introduction? Asking for a referral or introduction is asking someone to put their reputation on the line for you. So you want to choose wisely. 50 Shades of Referral Gray. There are varying levels of referrals, so you want to know which one you're asking for and which one you're getting. First, we have the friends in common mention. You may say something like, so-and-so speaks very highly of you. Now, if you really listen to that language, you can see that this is not a referral, but it does give you meaningful context. So if you're trying to build a relationship with someone that you don't have a referral or introduction to, but you do have people in common, use that context because it does make you stand out in a more beneficial way than if you were just a complete stranger. Then we have the use my name offer. That might look something like so-and-so suggested I write you, or so-and-so suggested I meet with you or give you a call. Now, in this case, you do have a referral, but the actual work is up to you. Now, if you do go this route, be sure that it's true because it will be found out if it isn't, and that's going to backfire on you and your credibility. Then we have the holy grail of all referrals, which is the direct referral. That's where so-and-so actually picks up the phone and says, hey, I think you should meet this person. They give you an e-introduction or another form of direct hookup to the person that you're trying to meet. Again, this is the biggest deal of all. When you do get this, you want to treat that person like gold because they believe in you. Now let's talk about how to successfully ask. When you ask for a referral, be direct and make your request easy to say yes to. The more clear you are about what you're asking, the easier it will be for them to decide. Now, of course, we always would love to get a yes to our requests, but ultimately your goal is to get an answer, yes or no, because then you're able to deal with reality and take action accordingly. There's nothing worse than making a vague request and then getting a vague answer, and then no one really knows what's going on or who's asking or doing what. So be clear. Be specific. You also want to set and agree to the next step and be specific about that. Now, once you have agreement to that next step, don't be afraid to follow up on what they promised. Now, if you're not sure that a referral is appropriate, use the ask for help method, which is this. If you haven't earned enough trust for a referral, here's what to do. You ask for advice. It leaves the door open to more without putting them on the spot. Now, when you ask for less, often you get more. And the best part is the person feels like it was their idea, so there's no pressure. Now, be sure to use the referral worksheet under this module to help you ask for both referrals and advice. Now that you've created your basic marketing message and found your referrals, it's time to reach out and connect. Now, the method is less important than the fact that you take action and put yourself out there. So choose the way or the ways that you are most likely to actually do and don't overthink it. So let's cover some methods of connection. With so many ways to connect these days, you want to choose the ones that resonate with who you already are. Now, some people love to chat with strangers, while others dread social interactions, but are incredibly strong writers. Don't push yourself to connect in a way that isn't a match. Do what works for you. But ultimately, you have to do something, and This is probably going to challenge you to step outside of your comfort zone, but do choose something that you can see yourself doing over the long term. So let's talk about the first method of connection, which is email. When you're using email, you want to make your subject heading relevant and enticing. Boring subject headings could easily be overlooked. Now, I don't know about your inbox, but my email is inundated and sometimes things fall through the cracks. You also want to create new subject headings for new subjects. If you're changing the topic or it's something time sensitive, you want to make that clear in the subject. Now, your goal with subject heading is to get the person to open the email. You don't have to sell them, you don't have to close them, you just want them to click on it and open it. So start to take notice of what email headings compel you to open right away versus the ones that you feel like you can get to it later. You also want to get to the point quickly and, of course, include all relevant information. That means contact info, dates, links. Don't make the person dig for more information. You want to make it easy for them to understand what you're sharing, what you're offering, or what you're asking. Next, we have social networking sites. Now, on sites that create mutual connections like LinkedIn or Facebook, where once someone accepts your request, you're now following each other, you can take action to further the conversation with a private message. You want to add value and keep the conversation going. How many times has someone friended you on Facebook and then that was the end of it? You want to take the extra step to give the relationship context and strengthen it. Now, when you start connecting with new people, remember that you are playing the long game. Relationships don't happen overnight, they take time. And like social media guru Gary Vaynerchuk says, don't be a 19-year-old boy and try to close on the first date. You don't have to get to the result of that relationship in one email, and you're not going to. So the more you can let this be a process, the simpler and more natural it will unfold on its own. Next, we have in-person events. Don't spend the whole evening talking to the friends you already know. Don't be shy, you've got to talk to people. Now, you want to take notes to remember what was said and use those references in your follow-up communication. Now, here's a strategy that I find really helpful. It's called the envelope method, and I learned it from one of my business coaches. It can really help you stay organized, especially if you go to a lot of events. You want to bring a plain envelope, or it could be a sparkly envelope, or whatever works for you. Write the details of the event on the envelope, and as you're meeting people throughout the night, you want to take notes about them directly onto their card and then tuck it into the envelope. Then when you get home, you can send a quick follow-up to every single person that you want to build a relationship with or that you promised to follow up to. Now, this could be on Facebook, it could be a quick tag on Twitter, it could be an email. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just important that you follow up right away. Don't shove those cards into your purse or your pocket, only to find them again 3 weeks later and feel like it's way too late to follow up and then drop the ball. You want to get into the habit of following up right away. It will help you keep that momentum going. Now, here's a little tip that I learned from Marie Forleo about networking at in-person events. It's so simple, but if you do feel yourself being shy and getting kind of weird about walking up and talking to people, all you have to do is say, "Hi, I don't think we've met before. I'm Emily." Super easy, right? You want to open that door to the conversation and see where it goes. Now remember that the key to all relationships is the follow-up. Meeting new people once isn't enough. The real results come from the follow-up. Now, our next method of connection is handwritten letters. These can be especially helpful with people who are harder to reach. If you're going to go to the trouble of writing by hand, you just might be able to find someone willing to pass it along. such as representation, the production company, an assistant at the in-person event. Now, if you remember my story from another module about writing to Ben Kingsley, I wrote him a handwritten note that his representation agreed to pass along. And then he handwrote a note back to me. It can happen. The only way to find out is to take action. Now remember, don't be creepy. Now by that I mean being really attached to the results, seeming desperate, but do look for a way to get your stuff to people, especially the ones that are harder to find contact info for. Now, when you keep it classy, professional, and genuine, you just might recruit the gatekeepers to become your allies. And those gatekeepers are potential relationships for you to build as well. Next, we have social media. You want to use social media as a tool to plant seeds and to supplement other methods of communication. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc. are great ways to maintain a relationship and stay on the radar. Now, they can't take the place of face-to-face time, but they can open the door to meetings, phone calls, and collaborations. Social media is also a great listening tool. It's a great seed planter, and it's a powerful maintenance tool, but just by itself, it can't create a valuable relationship. So you want to use it as a supplement to something else. Now remember, it's all about the details. Stepping out of your comfort zone can make you forget about the basics. So don't let this happen to you. You want to introduce yourself by using your name. You also want to include your contact info. I know this seems obvious, but I see it go out the window time and time again. You also want to listen to what is communicating. Take notes if you have to. Sometimes in the moment we're too nervous to actually hear what's being said. So do yourself a favor and just write it down. Whenever possible, you want to set the next step. Now this can be as simple as, I'll follow up with you by email tomorrow, but it keeps the ball in your court. Then schedule a follow-up reminder in your calendar so that you remember. And of course, take action to deliver what you said you were going to do. This is how we build trust. So now let's do some out-of-the-box thinking. These conventional methods of communication will get the job done, but you don't have to stop there. You can let your creativity come into play to make your relationship building fun for you. Here are some examples of creative marketing to inspire you. So the first one is Trailer Cash. Trailer Cash was a unique film festival created by my client, Lucas Van Engen. He wanted a way to connect with more filmmakers, and the original idea of, throw a party and invite the people you want to meet turned into a small annual film festival. Filmmakers could submit a trailer of a current project. The trailers were screened at the event, the audience voted, and the winning trailer won a cash prize to go towards the finishing of the project. Through this event, Lucas created enormous value. He gave filmmakers exposure and visibility, as well as the potential to win some money, right? That's a great value for a filmmaker. He also invited actors to submit their reels, which were screened during the event as well. So now he's putting lots of filmmakers and actors into the same room to build much needed relationships. Now, after a few years of running this, he got a sponsorship deal. It was getting bigger and bigger. He ultimately decided that he wanted to put his energy into other things, but the event was a great success that helped Lucas and many other people build strong relationships in the film world. Next, we have script in a drawer. Now, this is advice that I've heard from Mark Zykri. He's a producer and a filmmaker, as well as a marketing consultant. And his advice, which I think is so smart, and I try to pass it on whenever I can, is to bring long forgotten work back to life. The idea is every showrunner, every writer, director, every filmmaker has a script or several scripts sitting in a drawer gathering dust. Now you, as the actor, need material, and this is a way to give yourself content and bring life to a script that was probably never going to see the light of day. The idea is that you pitch the filmmaker something like, hey, I'm a fan of your work. I would love to know if you've got a script sitting in a drawer that I could produce a scene or multiple scenes from. I've got a team together. Here's our credibility. I'd love to option it from you. I've got $20 and I would love your permission to create this piece and give life to it. So of course, in this case, it's not about the money. No one's going to make money off of this project. It's about the creativity. So not only does it give you something to showcase as an actor, but it also comes with a built-in audience. Any fan of this screenwriter is a potential fan for your project. And of course, the screenwriter is going to watch your work, right? It's based on their work. And if they like it, who knows what's possible with a strong marketing campaign? I think this is such a great piece of advice. So don't thank me. It wasn't my idea. Thank Mark Zicree. But definitely think about going this route. Why not? Right? If you're going to create content, you might as well create content that you know has a built-in audience already. Next, we have My Date with Drew, One Man's Quest to Land a Date with Drew Barrymore. This was a documentary about a broke filmmaker with a crush on Drew Barrymore. He rents a camera with the intention of returning it within the 30-day refund policy and sets about trying to get a date with Drew. Now, of course, this was before the days of iPhones and inexpensive cameras. They were quite expensive at the time. But it's also an incredible example of how to find a way to connect with someone even when you feel like you have no way in. This was a ragtag crew of outsiders. They had no direct connections to Drew Barrymore, but they keep asking and getting more creative until they find a way in. It's really worth watching to get inspired about how to build relationships, especially when you feel like you don't know how. Then we have a story about producer Nicolas Chartier and getting creative at the Cannes Film Festival. So there's a link to this story underneath this video. It's actually about the Dallas Buyers Club and how that film lost their funding at the last minute and a different producer had to scramble to get $3 million in 3 days in order to save the film. Now, that producer was able to get the money from Nicolas Chartier, but the story that I really want you to pay attention to, which is in the blog post, is how Nicolas Chartier got into the position that he's in. So now he owns a sales distribution company. He's been attached as a producer to Dallas Buyers Club, The Hurt Locker. He's done a lot of really cool stuff in the film world, but the way that he got his start was he went to the Cannes Film Festival. He had written a screenplay, but he had no credits, and he was actually a teenager at the time. He was really wanting to get a screenplay in front of the decision makers who go to the film festival. They're all there, right? Cannes Film Festival is a great place to network and to build relationships, but it wasn't like he could afford a badge to go to the festival. So instead, he got the names of producers and agents, and then he went around to all the hotel concierges and convinced them to slip his script under the door to those specific people. Now, by happenstance, one of those people couldn't sleep. So in the middle of the night, this guy decides, oh, I'll just read the script, whatever. I don't know what this is, but I can't sleep. And he liked it so much, he ended up selling the script without ever having met or spoken to the writer. He actually sold it the very next day. He made this deal, and then he called up the writer and realized this is some teenage kid who was sleeping on the beach, waiting by a payphone for a call exactly like this. And when he did finally meet with Nicolas Chartier, he said, hey, kid, I sold your script for $100,000, right? This was a huge door opening for Nicolas Chartier, and it all happened because he hustled hard enough to get his script in front of the people who could do something with it. Now, clearly, he had a good script to back up that hustle, but I love these kinds of stories of people who find a way. And then to tie it all back to Dallas Buyers Club, years later, the producer who sold Nicolas Chardier's script originally, he was able to get the $3 million to save Dallas Buyers Club because he had earned the right to ask for that favor. You can check out the full article with the link that's included with this module. So let's talk about respect. This is important to keep in mind. You want to make the relationship a priority above what it can do for you. Respect both personal and professional boundaries in all your interactions. That means respect everyone you encounter, especially assistants, associates, receptionists, everyone. If you are only in the habit of respecting the person and not their team, that will get back to them. And I don't think anyone in this program is that kind of person, but just as a reminder, you want to always respect everyone that you encounter because that receptionist might become your ally who's the person running the studio in 10 years from now. You just never know, right? That kid sleeping on the beach that the producer gave his big break to was the person who was able to give him the $3 million to make Dallas Buyers Club because he was returning that favor. When in doubt, ask. Use your fear or obstacle as the way in instead of the reason not to do it. So if you're not sure if something is okay to do, you simply ask. You use that fear as a conversation starter. So you can say something like, "This might be overstepping a line, I'm not sure, but I wanted to put it out there. Let me know what you think." So instead of letting your fear be the thing that stops you, you actually use it as a way to diffuse the very fear that's been stopping you from taking action. The relationship has to be more important to you than what that person can do for you. Don't let that stop you from taking a risk, but you can take a risk in a respectful way. Now remember, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. So here is your actionable step. Use the referral worksheet to get specific about how to ask your network for referrals. Choose your method of communication, choose your referrals, choose your peeps to connect with, whether those are new relationships or old ones, and take action. Make sure that you track what you're doing in your outreach calendar and be clear about what you're sending and when. Don't procrastinate, get to work.